Yeah, good evening to all of you. Yeah. It seems people are yet to come out of Holi, right? They are taking not holidays but holidays, right? So we were discussing about the criticism of our constitution, right? Right. Let us look at what we were discussing. Any doubts you can ask? Yeah. Constitutionalism. Yeah. Hmm. Inherent. Yes. Limited government means none of the organs of the state, legislature, executive or judiciary, have absolute powers. Take the case of British constitution. In United Kingdom, Parliament has sovereign powers. It is not limited, unlimited powers in United Kingdom. Whereas in India, we have only a situation wherein the three organs of the state have only very limited powers. They are not sovereign, they are only supreme in their own domain. Legislature can make laws, but the laws made by legislature can always be declared invalid by judiciary. That is how we say that, and that is what also we said, inherent checks and balances. The power of the legislature can be checked by judiciary. The power of executive can be limited by legislature. Like this, we have inherent checks and balances, so that none of these organs of the state have absolute sovereign powers. That is what the idea behind constitutionalism. Both of them convey similar meaning. That's the reason why we said that we have defined constitutionalism from various dimensions. All those dimensions at the end of the day talk about only one thing, that is the sovereignty of the citizens, and ultimately implementing the constitution in both letter and spirit. And these are all the different ways of doing it. On the other hand, if you take the case of United Kingdom, their parliament has sovereign powers. They have sovereign powers. Judiciary cannot check the power of parliament to make legislation. That is what we say, the difference here. Yes. Yeah. Features of constitution. Features of constitution means how do we define our constitution? What are the important characteristics? How do we identify our constitution? We can identify our constitution in the form of these features of constitution, like written constitution, federal form of democracy, then parliamentary democracy, independent judiciary. These are all the features of constitution. That means this is how you identify your constitution, right? Yeah. I will come to the basic structure. We have not discussed it. I'll come to the basic structure a little bit later, right? And then constitutionalism, as a remember constitutionalism, the meaning is very, very simple here. Constitutionalism means implementing the ideals of the constitution in both letter and spirit. We have a great constitution, but the question that we are asking here is that whether we have been able to implement the ideals that are enshrined in the constitution in reality. Do the people have a complete freedom of speech and expression? We will talk about all those things. We have independent judiciary. We also have judicial review. But at this point of time, 48 million cases are pending with our judiciary. That means 4.8 crore. And as you have written, it would take our judiciary at least 300 years to come out with the judgment in those cases, provided in the next 300 years, no fresh cases are filed. We say that in English, justice delayed is justice denied. So do we have constitutionalism? That is what the question that we are asking. Similarly, we have mentioned that in our Lok Sabha, there are 43.5% of our MPs who have been against whom cases have been filed. Cases have been filed. All of them have submitted those statistics to the Election Commission. On the basis of the information they have provided to the Election Commission, we can see that those 43.5% of our MPs have criminal records against them. When lawbreakers become lawmakers, will there be any rule of law? That is the question that we are asking. That is the reason why we say that in India we have constitutional formalism, but not constitutionalism. That is the difference between the democracies of the West and India. In India, we have written constitution and we have all those features that we have mentioned. But in reality, we are far from achieving constitutionalism. That is what we are saying. Right? Yeah. We have weak constitutionalism. Yeah, you can say that we have a constitutionalism to some extent, but not to the fullest extent. No country in the world can have like that. But on a scale of 1 to 10, we are at around 3 to 4. Or a country like UK, it is around 7 to 8. That is where we are lagging behind. Yes. Any other question? What can be done? That we will discuss as part of judiciary. We will provide lots of reforms, to improve the functioning of judiciary. We'll talk about a lot of them. At this point of time, we are just only having what is called a bird's eye view of our entire syllabus. As we go deep into various topics, we will come to solutions also. We will talk about a lot of the problems with our judiciary, why there are so many cases that are pending, and what could be the solutions also. We will provide all of them. Who is asking the question? Right, okay. How can we achieve constitutionalism? All the reforms, we'll talk about parliamentary reforms. For example, what should be done to eliminate this criminalization of politics? And what should be done to improve the functioning of judiciary? What should be done to convert, to transform our representative democracy into participatory democracy? All those reforms we'll be discussing. An entire syllabus is about, I said, constitutionalism. How to ensure that we are able to implement rule of law in both letter and spirit. How can we protect the fundamental rights of the citizens? That that is part of our entire syllabus. In fact, almost each and every question is about this only. Anything else? Let me look at online. Anyone is asking question? Why there is a provincial constitutional committees despite we have a single constitution? While formulating the constitution, our constitutional forefathers have felt that they needed to take suggestions from everyone. That is the reason why we have these provincial constitutional committees. Beyond that, nothing else. Even within the Constituent Assembly also, if you remember, we have spoken about so many committees that have been set up, right? Then in criticism, we have seen a point that critics say that our constitution has influence of Western. Then in criticisms, we have mentioned that our constitution is influenced mostly by Western liberal values. Gandhian spirit is missing. What can we do? Already we are doing, for example, to implement Gandhian ideals, we have passed 73rd and 74th amendments. Like that, we are doing so many things also. We are taking so many measures also, right, to make sure that our constitution also reflects Indian ethos and Indian values. Exactly. That is the reason why we are taking in general what people of the country want. People of the country want, what do they want? Very simple. They wanted a peaceful, stable, prosperous society. That is what everyone wants. You don't want any communal violence. You don't want any regionalism. You don't want any caste-based conflicts. You don't want any language-based discrimination. That is what everyone in the country wants. And that is what we are working towards. Can we say that British Parliament is not following constitutionalism as it is sovereign? As we have mentioned, in United Kingdom, they do not have any written constitution because they have evolved democracy over a period of 800 years. Now this democracy, democratic traditions, democratic customs, democratic cultures have evolved over a period of 800 years. So that is the reason why they did not require any what we call a written constitution. On the other hand, if you look at all other democracies in the world, they got democracy through revolution, not through evolution. Take the case of United States of America, American Revolution, French Revolution, German Revolution, and in India we had this freedom movement. So that is the reason why all our countries have only what is called a written constitution. Because United Kingdom has a mature democracy, they do not require any written constitution. And if you remember, that is what we have written also. Why did we need a written constitution? Why? Because we never had experience with democracy for our long 5,000 years old civilization. And that is the reason why we needed a constitution that can provide guidelines to the future, a roadmap to the future, and also provide solutions if future generations face any kind of problems. If you look at all the judgments given by Supreme Court, they are based on our constitution, interpretation of our constitution. That is what our Supreme Court also has said, constitutional morality. We will be discussing all of them as we proceed. Pardon? Yes. These are all the different committees that are constituted by Constituent Assembly to frame the constitution. See, very simple. This is about a division of work. If 100 people are there, right? 10 people will be asked to do something, 10 others will be asked to do something else. The objective is to make sure that we are able to complete all the tasks within the time period. That is the reason why this kind of division of work is there. For example, Ambedkar, Ambedkar's committee has been given this responsibility of framing the constitution. Nehru, was heading maximum number of committees. Our constitution has so many features. It has so many parts, so many schedules. So it becomes difficult for a single person to do entire task. That is the reason why it was given to various committees. Very simple. Provincial constitutional committees, they are expected to give recommendation regarding the powers of the state governments, the relation between the center and state governments. That is what it is. Very simple, as the name itself indicates. Right? What is constitutionalism in single word? Strict implementation of rule of law. Right? Strict implementation of rule of law in both letter and spirit. With that, everything else comes. With that, if we are implementing a rule of law very strictly, you will not have a situation wherein 43.5% of your MPs have criminal records. You should have investigated them and you should have punished them. If they are guilty, punish them. If they are innocent, leave them. But we are not able to implement rule of law. If you have strict implementation of rule of law, all those who violate fundamental rights will be severely punished. That is not the case. So at the end of the day, if we have to describe constitutionalism in one single word, it has to be strict implementation of rule of law. That's it, right? Does the British follow constitutionalism or not? Yes, Britain has more constitutionalism than India, even though they do not have a written constitution. Why? Because as I said, it is a mature democracy. They have developed the conventions, and what is letter and spirit? What do you mean by letter and spirit? Yes, what is written in the constitution is letter, and what do you see in reality is the spirit. In reality, we do not have a strict implementation of our ideals of our constitution. That is what we say. Everything is there in the constitution. As we proceed, we'll talk about so many fundamental rights. We'll talk about so many values our constitutional forefathers have cherished. They spoke about preamble. In preamble, they have included socialism. What is the meaning of this word socialism? Very simple. We are establishing an egalitarian society. That means a society wherein there will not be any much of difference between the rich and poor people. Everyone will have equal opportunities. But do we have that kind of society now? Top 1% of our population have almost 50% of the wealth, and bottom 50% have only around less than 10% of the wealth. So do we have socialism? That is what we say. We have included everything in the constitution, right? We have included everything in the constitution, but in reality, to put them into practice, the most difficult thing. For example, right to freedom of speech and expression, right? The government has given this, our constitutional forefathers have given us this right. But at the same time, the government can arrest you under sedition laws if you speak anything against the government. So do we have this right in reality? Right to life and personal liberty. You can be arrested under what is called preventive detention. The government assumes that you will be committing a crime in the future. And they say that we have a dream last night that you will be committing a crime in the future. So we are arresting you today. Where is right to life and personal? As I said, no other constitution in the world has this preventive detention. Even in the most dictatorships also, they don't have it. That is what we say. We have everything in our constitution, but implementation is far from effective. Take the case of Global Transparency Index, Multidimensional Poverty Index. Then take the case of Global Hunger Index, Gender Equality Index. The other day, world celebrated is this International Women's Day. And look at India's Gender Equity Index. Do women enjoy the same kind of right as men in our country? So, Article 14 talks about right to equality, right? Do women have the same kind of equal opportunities compared to men in our society? That is what we say. Putting in the constitution is very easy. Write a single sentence saying that right to equality. But achieving in reality is the most difficult thing. That is the reason why we say constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is all about implementing the ideals of the constitution, which is very, very difficult. Right? Right. Someone is asking, how can we justify constitutionalism in UK even after the fact that they have exploited the world? Yes, they have exploited the entire world, but in their own country they have ensured constitutionalism. They can do that. Even America is also not doing the same thing, only exploiting the world. But in their own country, there is constitutionalism. If you look at America, America has, as I said, one of the most vibrant, dynamic democracies in the world, right? And if you look at America's foreign policy, they always support dictators. They always support dictators because it becomes easier for America to manipulate the dictators and make sure that the policies formulated by the dictators would benefit Americans. So what you do in your own country is completely different from what you do to others. Take the case of United Kingdom only. When India, we had this freedom movement going on severely. In the United Kingdom, they had complete democracy. They had complete democracy. That is what we say countries do. What they do for their own country will be radically different from what they will be doing in other countries. In India, it was a ruthless dictatorship. Because that is what that will be beneficial for United Kingdom. As we mentioned, in 200 years, Britishers had looted more than $45 trillion, right? $45 trillion. To put it in perspective, our GDP is now only $3.7 trillion, right? So there, within your country, you can have best of the things. It does not mean that you have to put all the things in other countries also, which you are ruling, right? So that is, UK can have constitutionalism, and they prefer dictatorship in other countries when you are ruling them, right? Anything else? Yes, that is what I said. In United Kingdom, they don't have any written constitution. Why? Because they have developed the democratic conventions over a period of time. Whoever comes to positions of power will have to respect, will have to follow those democratic traditions. That is what I said, matured democracy. I'll just give you one example. In your childhood, you were not studying. Normally, children don't study, right? Anyone who studied on their own in their childhood without parents telling them? After coming from the school, immediately opening the books and started doing the homework and studying. Anyone? Anyone here? Yeah, very good. That's nice. That is the problem, right? Because your parents should have consulted a child psychiatrist at that point of time itself for this abnormal behavior, right? Normal children. I'm sure that all of you are normal, right? Right? Nobody would do it, right? That is the reason why in childhood the parents would be sitting in front of you with dangerous weapons in their hands, right? To make you study, right? That is what is called written constitution. And now, do they do the same thing? Why? Because they believe that you have become matured children, and you know your responsibilities. They know that they believe that you are capable of studying on your own, and that is the reason why they will not be sitting in front of you. In the same manner, in United Kingdom, they have developed these conventions for such a long period of time. They don't require any written constitution because they have become matured societies. On the other hand, in India, it is just as I said. India, as a country, it is still very young, right? People did not have any experience with democracy. That is the reason why we needed written constitution. In spite of having written constitution, also, there is every possibility that in India, we can easily get into the hands of a dictator. In spite of having a written constitution. Why? Because we have not developed those democratic conventions. Already in 1975, an emergency was imposed by the then Prime Minister, which led to literally death of democracy. Why? Because we could not develop those kind of conventions. In India, there is every possibility that if a charismatic person becomes the leader of the country, that person can easily manipulate the institutions and easily transform the country into a dictatorship. That is the reason why we needed a written constitution. On the other hand, in United Kingdom, it is not the case because they have developed that democratic spirit over a period of time, right? And that is the reason why they don't require any written constitution. If we can also do this, maybe after 300-400 years, India can also have that kind of situation wherein we don't require any constitution. I don't think it will ever come. In India, we always prefer only a dictatorship, right? Take the case of state governments. At the state level also, look at all those charismatic leaders. All those charismatic leaders at the state level, regional leaders. The moment they have absolute majority, you can see them behaving in a dictatorial manner. Because nobody wants democracy. It is very easy to rule in a dictatorship, and it is very difficult in a democracy. That is the reason why the leaders always want to have all the power unto themselves. That is the reason why we have a written constitution, to make sure that those charismatic leaders would not transform the country into a dictatorship. Right? Anything else? Yes. If the law is unjust and if it is strictly implemented, no. That is the reason why we said that strict implementation of rule of law. And what did we say? Rule of law, the essence of rule of law is equality before law. That is the reason why. Our entire constitution is based on this rule of law, or what we call it as constitutional law. So definitely, we believe that the law, our constitution is highly moralistic. It is highly, what you can say, qualitatively the best. So there is absolutely no problem with our constitution. Yes, when you say that law is unjust, if it is strictly implemented, it is not called constitutionalism. Take the case of communist China. They also have a law. No country can exist without law. But the law there is completely unjust. That is the reason why we don't say that China has constitutionalism. They have law, but it is not constitutionalism. They do not have, in India we talk about rule of law, right? In China we say that rule by law. They rule by law. The government formulates the law, dictatorship, and everyone has to accept it. That's what in China, what is the reason why China has attracted so much of FDI? Why China has progressed so fast? Because of its dictatorship. For example, the government says that we have identified 10,000 acres of land. It says that we have identified 10,000 acres of land, and this land will be given to a foreign investor for setting up a factory. And this 10,000 acres of land belong to the people. The government will go to the people and tell the people that either give up land or give up life. Complete democracy, full of choices. Very simple, very simple. Recently, some time back in China, there was a situation wherein the real estate sector was witnessing huge amount of boom. The prices were going up. Immediately government passed a law saying that if anyone sells their houses for a price above that is being fixed by the government, immediately they will be hanged. Simple. That is what we say rule by law. Right? Every country, as we said, the natural tendency of any society is to move towards entropy. That is the reason why we need a state. So in China also they have a government, they have a state, but it is dictatorship. The government formulates law. The government formulates law without consulting the people, without worrying about what we call natural justice, principles of natural justice. And the government will use the force to implement that law. As I said, if you don't give up your land, you will be killed. That is not constitutionalism. That is only rule-based governance. Simple. And the law is completely unjust. Right? Yes, anything else? What is Hindu rate of growth? It is part of your economy. Right? You are asking questions about economy also. Have you heard about this term, Hindu rate of growth? Yes, what is it? Don't worry. Okay, very simple. It was, let me tell you. See, all of you will be taking the examination in English language, right? So it is better, even if it is difficult, you start, I told you in the first class also, it is better you start conversing in English language. That is better. Because it will be difficult. Initially it will be difficult. But you have to practice it. Because when you are writing this examination in English, you have to start thinking in English. You have to start speaking in English. And those of you who have basically come from say regional languages or any other languages, vernacular languages, it is better you start doing those things now. Right? Very, very important. So coming back here, this Hindu rate of growth was basically a satire, sarcastic comment. In 1950s and 60s and 70s, Indian economy was growing at around 3.5% per annum per year. The potential was there, but we could not utilize the potential for various reasons. That is when one of the economists in India, Professor Rajkrishna, he called it as a Hindu rate of growth. Why? Because as I said, it was only a sarcastic comment. Why it is said that Hindus are basically more what you call interested in spiritual aspects of life. That is, what happens after death, life after death. Hindu way of life is a very simple life. Mahatma Gandhi practiced. Abstain from all comforts and luxuries. Be closer to God, and think about spiritual aspects of life. That is the reason why it is said that India did not give importance to materialistic aspects. Right? We did not give importance to materialistic aspects like GDP, unemployment, poverty, growth. So it was basically a sarcastic comment. India should have grown at least in those days minimum 8 to 9% per annum. But because of the policies of the government in those days, we opted for socialism. That was the reason why we could not achieve that kind of growth. Recently, the term had become again popular because a former RBI governor has said that India might be returning to Hindu rate of growth, because the growth rate in India is now coming down because of the global recession. That is what the reason why it was called. But it was only a sarcastic comment, beyond that nothing else. Right? And then what is entropy? Entropy means simply destruction. Anarchy. That is what we have said. Any society ultimately moves towards anarchy and destruction. To prevent this entropy, we needed a constitution. We need rule-based governance. Right? Anything else? Shall we proceed? Right. Any other doubts you can ask? So we were talking about the criticism of the constitution. We have mentioned so many criticisms against our constitution. What did we say? We said that Indian constitution was one of the lengthiest constitutions in the world. Why? Because our constitutional forefathers could not differentiate between what is constitution and what is day-to-day administration. Right? We also have said that our constitution is a bag of borrowed material. We have borrowed from America, we have borrowed from UK, we have borrowed from Australia, we have borrowed from Canada, we have borrowed from Germany, we have borrowed from Pakistan, we have borrowed from Afghanistan, Somalia, Sudan, every country. Right? So that is what the criticism they have made. But again, we said that this criticism is not justified because that, as Ambedkar has said, our objective is to give the best of the constitutions to the people of the country. And that is the reason why he said that we have taken the best aspects from different constitutions around the world. And he said that he was not at all shy of admitting that he had taken this constitution from various sources. Then we also have made what are the other criticisms that we have mentioned? We said that fundamental rights. These fundamental rights in our constitution, they are mostly fundamental limitations on rights. None of these fundamental rights are absolute. There are so many limitations. There are so many restrictions. The limitations and restrictions have become so unreasonable over a period of time. If you remember, that is what we have said. The state can easily become a leviathan. Right? Over a period of time, the state has acquired so much of power unto itself that it had become a leviathan. In the process, it has taken away the freedoms and rights of the citizens through various legislations. That is what we have said. Then what are the other criticisms against our constitution? We said that our constitution reflected mostly the Western liberal political ideology than Gandhian values. This criticism we said is valid because most of our constitutional forefathers, they were educated in London and they were influenced by this Western liberal philosophy. That is the reason why they had given a lot of importance to fundamental rights. In Western societies, we said they are more materialistic societies and they only think about themselves. Self-interest only is the one that dominates. We have given the example also. United States of America. When American government wanted to impose this lockdown, people defied lockdown. America is the only country in the world which did not implement this lockdown completely. On the other hand, in India, we had a very, very strict lockdown. During that lockdown, even corona was not also allowed to spread. The kind of lockdown we have implemented. Right? Of course, once we lifted the lockdown, corona also got the freedom. Right? So that is what we said. And then another criticism against our constitution, we say is that it is a lawyer's paradise and a common man's nightmare. And this criticism is definitely valid. All those members of the Constituent Assembly, all of them were lawyers. In those days, how do you define a patriotic person? You must go to London, study barrister, law, come back to India and participate in the freedom struggle. That is the reason why almost all our freedom fighters, they studied law, from Mahatma Gandhi to Jawaharlal Nehru to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel to everyone else. All of them studied law. Had our constitution been written by chartered accountants, it would have been full of numbers, 2 plus 2, 3 minus 5, like that. That is the reason why the language is so complicated. It is so difficult to understand, the language. It is a lawyer's paradise and a common man's nightmare. That's what, if you remember, that's what we have said. If you are not able to sleep properly, if you are not able to get the sleep, simply take DD Bus, start reading. After first article, you will sleep reading, you feel sleepy. Second article, you will sleep. And if you are still alive, read the third article, you will sleep forever. Right? Definitely this criticism is valid. Next criticism we say is that against our constitution is, we have taken our constitution from so many sources, but at the end of the day, critics have said that our constitution is nothing but an extension of 1935 Government of India Act. They said that our entire constitution is nothing but an extension of this GOI, Government of India Act. Major portions of our constitution, major features of our constitution we have taken from this GOI 1935. They say that our constitution is nothing but an extension. Now we have simply cut, copied, paste in those days. Right now, you can write one constitution in 1 hour. In those days, there was no internet, and there were no computers. So that is the reason why it had taken them so much of time. Otherwise, right now, you take the same thing and cut, copy, and paste. So that is what the criticism against our constitution at that point of time. That we have taken everything from the 1935 Government of India Act, and there was nothing original about the constitution. Do we agree with this criticism? Yes, it is a fact that the major features of our constitution are derived from 1935 Government of India Act. For example, parliamentary democracy, parliamentary form of government, federalism, judiciary, union list, state list. We have taken most of these things from 1935 Government of India Act. The skeleton of our Indian constitution is definitely influenced by 1935 Government of India Act. But to say that our constitution is nothing but an extension of this 1935 Government of India Act is completely wrong. To say that it is an extension of 1935 Government of India Act. Why do we say that? Why? Because first of all, this 1935 Government of India Act was a legislation passed by British Parliament for a colony called India. It was passed by British Parliament for a colony called India. Right? So, whereas our constitution is a sovereign document formulated by the people of our own country. There is a hell lot of difference between them. During the 1935 Government of an Act time, India was a colony of Britishers. We were a colony of the Britishers. So it was a document formulated by the British Parliament for a colony called India. Whereas if you look at our constitution, the present constitution, what do we say about it? The present constitution, we say, is that is a document which has been formulated by the people of our own country. It is a sovereign document, and it is not formulated by someone else. So to say that our constitution is nothing but an extension of a 1935 Government of India Act is completely wrong. Why? Because constitution is a sovereign document. The other one is only a arrangement by an imperial power for a colony. Next, there are major differences between our constitution and 1935 Government of India Act. What are the other differences that we can talk about here? The next difference that we can talk about here is that if you look at it in a 1935 Government of India Act, they had a judiciary. The powers of judiciary, everything was there. But during those days, in 1935 Government of India Act, judiciary was neither independent nor impartial. Why do we say that? It was neither independent nor impartial. Why? Because it was not independent, because the judgments of the Supreme Court can be overruled by Governor General. Judgments of the Supreme Court. Can the President of India overrule the judgments of the Supreme Court now? No. Right? It was not impartial. Why it was not impartial? Because Indian judges were not allowed to sit on the judgments involving Europeans or Britishers. So it was highly partial. As we study later with our judiciary also, they had come out with so many what is called colonial practices. In those days, the judges were called my lord. In the courtroom, they should be addressed as my lord. Colonial. That means judges are gods. That is how it was during the British times. Unfortunately, we are continuing with the same tradition now also. If judges are lords, what about the real lords? What about the real gods? Right? Why these kind of traditions were started? Why? Because Britishers do not want any criticism of the judges. Can we criticize gods? Obviously not. In the same manner, British also does not want any criticism of the judges. So that is the reason why. And if you look at it, as I said, Governor General had absolute sovereign powers. Governor General had absolute sovereign powers. Whereas if you look at the Constitution, does the President of India has absolute sovereign powers? No. We have a equal distribution of powers between the legislature, executive and judiciary. So that is the reason why we don't accept this criticism also. Right? So let us take down some few points about the criticisms against the Constitution. Criticisms of Indian Constitution. First one, you can write lengthiest constitution in the world. Indian Constitution, write down. Indian Constitution has been criticized as one of the lengthiest constitutions in the world. As one of the lengthiest constitutions in the world. Original Constitution has 8 schedules. Original Constitution has 8 schedules. and hundreds of articles and hundreds of articles. It is said that our constitutional forefathers could not differentiate between what is a constitution and what is day-to-day administration They included all activities related to day-to-day administration, in the Constitution. It is argued that our constitutional forefathers have included minute aspects of governance in constitution because they did not want future generations to suffer, SUFFER, because of any ambiguity. AMBIGUITY. Ambiguity means because of any lack of clarity. It means lack of clarity. So what we are saying here is that they have included all the day-to-day aspects of governance also in Constitution because first of all, we did not have any kind of experience with democracy and constitutional governance. And if there is any problem in the future, related to the working of the Constitution, then how to resolve that problem. That is the reason why our constitutional forefathers have said that any future problems, the solutions could be found in the Constitution. And that is the reason why they said that we are including every small aspect of governance also in the Constitution. For example, take the case of the Office of President of India. You have so many articles. What are the powers of the President of India? What are the qualifications for a person to be contesting as a President of India? What are the functions of President of India? How the President of India can be removed? And what are the functions of President of India? We have so many articles. Similarly, for each and every office, we have included so many articles. Because in the future, if there is any problem, you can always go back to the Constitution. Similarly, when I will be giving you very exhaustive, very comprehensive notes, so that you can always go back to the notes, any kind of problems. That is what exactly our constitutional forefathers also have done. They do not want any future generations to suffer because of any kind of lack of clarity. On the other hand, as I said, United States of America, it has only 7 articles. You will complete entire constitution in one single day. American polity can be completed in one single day. Only 7 articles. Right? At this point of time, we have more than 480 articles and we are still counting. Right? Because every day we will amend, yes. That they have their separate procedures and rules and regulations for it. In America, they said that there shall be a president of America. Then what are the functions, what are the powers, how president will be removed, that will be part of their other laws, not part of Constitution. We have included everything in the Constitution. And as I said, what is the argument given by the constitutional forefathers? They do not want any kind of problems for future generations. Next, criticism against our Constitution. Yes. See, that is what it is. Now that we have included everything in the Constitution, if you want to change, you have to amend the Constitution. Right now, at the time of framing of our Constitution, we have included everything, every smallest details of our administration in the Constitution. Right? So from then onwards, when you are starting with a large base, Constitution is very, very large. And it keeps on increasing only. It keeps on increasing only. Right? Because whenever you are talking about changes, if you remember, that's what we have said, a constitution is not a static legal document. It is a dynamic living organism. It must reflect the concerns of the people, wishes of the people, demands of the people. That is the reason why we keep on amending the constitution also. That is the reason, current comment, every session of the parliament we keep on amending the constitution. So it goes on. Maybe in the future we can rewrite the entire constitution. As I said, the present generation is radically different from 1947. We are living in the age of Twitter. Right? In 200 alphabets, you define the entire world. Why do you require so many articles? Right? Maybe the most important change that we need to our constitution is, let us make it very simple. Let us make it very simple. Right? How many of you know about fundamental rights? What is the point of coming out with a constitution when ordinary people do not know about them? And you are writing the constitution in such a difficult manner that ordinary people can never understand. On top of it, our literacy levels are also very, very low. And those who are literate, they can also find it difficult to understand what is there in the constitution. This is the problem with having such a long constitution. Yeah. Difference between law and constitution. Constitution, as we said, provides a basic idea about how a country should be governed. Laws are basically the instruments through which this governance is carried out. A constitution is a document, right? It is a document that provides information about how a country should be governed. That is what is constitution. Yes. Constitution is a document that provides information about how a country should be governed, on the basis of which laws a country should be governed. It provides that information. What is the relation between the citizens and the state? What is the relation between the 3 organs of the state? This is what a constitution is. Right? And laws are made by the governments on the basis of constitution. For example, the government had come out with 3 farm bills to reform agriculture. They are based on the constitution, directive principles of state policy. Right. Next, let us look at other criticisms. Bag of borrowed material. Bag. Right. Bag of borrowed material. Critics, CRITACS, critics have alleged that alleged that there is nothing original in Indian Constitution. There is nothing original, ORIGINAL, in Indian Constitution. And it is nothing but a bag of borrowed material. Indian Constitution borrowed from various sources, including American, British, German, Canadian, and other constitutions. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Canadian and other constitutions. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee, the chairman of the drafting committee, had accepted this criticism but at the same time he argued that constitutional forefathers desire was to give the best constitution to the people of the country. And they have borrowed the best features of various constitutions. So that is what he said. He said that we wanted to give the people of our country the best constitution. That is the reason why they have borrowed from the best, they have borrowed from various constitutions. There is nothing wrong in it. If you find something better in other person, automatically you will try to take that one. Tomorrow you are studying, right? Your friend is doing things in a better manner. You will try to, copy him. You will try to imitate him, because at the end of the day, you want to improve your performance. In the same manner, our constitutional forefathers, they felt that to frame the constitution for our country as large, as diverse as India, it is better to look at other constitutions in the world, take the best features. And that is what they said. They have done it. Next criticism against our constitution. Next criticism. Indian constitution is criticized as Indian constitution is criticized as an extension of Government of India Act 1935. Government of India Act 1935. Write the explanation. Major features of our constitution. Major features of our constitution. Are borrowed from Government of India Act 1935. Government of India Act 1935, including federalism, judiciary, parliamentary form of government, parliamentary form of government, and so on. Next paragraph. But this criticism is not valid. But this criticism is not valid because our constitutional forefathers have made significant changes to all those features. Basic difference, full stop, basic difference between Government of India Act 1935 and Indian Constitution is that our Constitution is a sovereign document. Our Constitution is a sovereign document, whereas 1935 Government of India Act was a legislation passed by British Parliament. A legislation passed by British Parliament. A legislation passed by British Parliament for its colony India. For its colony India. That is what we say. So you cannot say that it is an extension of 1935 Government of India Act. Next, criticism against our constitution. Complete exclusion of Gandhian values. Gandhian. Critics have alleged that ALLEGED. Critics have alleged that Indian Constitution reflected more of more of Western liberal political ideologies. Than Gandhian values. Western liberal political ideologies than Gandhian values. Mahatma Gandhi believed in community life, village self-rule, minimal state, and more freedoms. Minimal state and more freedoms for people. But our constitutional forefathers have given more importance to a strong, powerful, and a centralized state. Centralized state. They also gave a lot of importance to fundamental rights. They realized the mistake of ignoring Gandhian values. And included them later in where? Yes, directive principles of state policy. Next criticism. Our constitution is criticized as a lawyer's paradise. LAWYERS, lawyer's paradise, Paradise, and a common man's nightmare. And a common man's nightmare. Common man's nightmare. Most of, write the explanation, most of the members of a constituent assembly, most of the members of the constituent assembly, CONSTITUENT, constituent assembly, have a legal background. It is reflected in the Constitution. The language used is very complicated. And extremely difficult to understand. It is one of the reasons why our constitution did not become popular with the masses. It is one of the reasons why our constitution did not become popular with masses. It is also the reason for inability of ordinary people. It is also the reason for inability of ordinary people to make use of the rights and freedoms provided. In the Constitution. Rights and freedoms provided in the Constitution. Right? So this is what we say about the criticisms of our Constitution. So let us proceed further. Any doubts you can ask, otherwise we can proceed. Yes. Gandhian principles and Gandhian values reflected Indian society values. That is the reason why Gandhian principles we give. Exactly, but one person can influence. Mahatma Gandhi influenced the freedom movement like no other leader. And that is the reason why UPSC also keeps on asking questions about Gandhian values. In your entire ethics paper, Gandhi is the most important philosopher. And please remember, while writing answers in our entire polity or economy, the most important person for you is Mahatma Gandhi. If you write about Gandhi, you will also become Mahatma. Right? So don't underestimate Mahatma Gandhi. Right? Any kind of doubt when you're writing answers, bring in Mahatma Gandhi. Right? For example, 73rd, 74th amendments, we will discuss that one, local cell governments. We talk about Gandhian dream. What did Mahatma Gandhi say? What did Mahatma Gandhi say? I will tell you. Right? He said that real freedom is not about getting independence from Britishers. It is not about getting independence from Britishers. Real freedom is all about transforming our villages into self-sufficient independent republics. Decentralization of power, giving more rights to the people, village panchayats, and a community life. This is what is Gandhian values. That is also Indian values. That is what we said, if you remember. What are Indian values? And what are the values of the Western societies? Indian values to talk about sacrificing self-interest for the sake of the society. That's what we have said. In Western countries, materialistic societies, they do not think about others. They do not think about the society. They are always guided by self-interest. That is the reason why in the Western societies, fundamental rights are more important. Fundamental rights are given more importance also. I gave you the example. In America, when the government wanted to impose this lockdown, immediately people came onto the streets. They said that we do not mind dying of corona, but we do not want to lose our freedom. So you are not concerned about the society. You are always guided by self-interest. That is what we say a materialistic society. On the other hand, Mahatma Gandhi always spoke about sacrificing self-interest, leading a community life, finding our happiness in the overall peace and prosperity within the society. If we have to sacrifice our self-interest for it, so be it. That is what Mahatma Gandhi's Gandhian values. On the other hand, our freedom fighters, they were influenced by Western liberal philosophy. As I said, there was a political differences between Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar regarding how a country should be governed. Mahatma Gandhi believed that villages should be given complete freedom and independence. He believed that these village panchayats should be converted into village republics. But Ambedkar was against it. Ambedkar felt that our villages in those days were a den of this casteism, untouchability, discrimination. So he did not want any kind of freedom to be given to the villages. And that is the reason why Ambedkar believed in centralized, top-down, very powerful, strong government, which goes against Gandhian values. And since Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee, our constitution reflected more of Western liberal political ideologies than Gandhian values. That is what we have written. If this criticism is valid also. When our constitutional forefathers towards the end realized that they did not include Gandhian values, then they tried to make up for this criticism by including Gandhian values in directive principles of state policy. Fundamental rights, we made them legally enforceable. On the other hand, DPSPs are only directives. That is what we say. So this is what the criticisms against our constitution. Why Gandhi was not part of Constituent Assembly? Why Gandhi? If after independence, if Gandhi wanted, as I said, he could have been the president, come prime minister, come army chief, come Supreme Court chief justice. Why would he be a member of Constituent Assembly then? He did not aspire for any power. Gandhi believed only in sacrifice. He said that I do not want any power. What happened on 15th of August when the entire country was celebrating freedom? Where was Mahatma Gandhi? Mahatma Gandhi was somewhere in remote corners of Calcutta. Right? He was trying to douse this communal violence that was taking place in East Bengal at that point of time. Right? East Pakistan. And that is what Lord Mountbatten also has said. What did Lord Mountbatten say about Gandhi? On the Western Front, Punjab, here, there was no Mahatma Gandhi. That led to the death of more than 1 million people in these clashes between India and Pakistan after independence. On the Eastern Front, there was only one person, Mahatma Gandhi. He could ensure complete peace during this period of a partition. That is what Lord Mountbatten has said. The entire might of the British Empire, such a powerful army could not prevent the death of more than 1 million people during this partition. Here, Mahatma Gandhi, a single person, very old, very fragile, very weak person, he could prevent all the violence also. That is what Mahatma Gandhi was doing. When the entire country was celebrating, he was in some remotest part of the country trying to douse this communal violence. If he had wanted, as I said, he could have been everything. Yes. Yeah, that's enough. He started the movements and he had withdrawn because, take the case of non-cooperation movement. The entire non-cooperation movement was based on peaceful protests. When the movement turned violent, he said that we were not ready for this peaceful movements and he has stopped it. Exactly. Not he cannot as the leader of the movement. He should also make sure that followers follow strictly his instructions. And what is the reason why Mahatma Gandhi has stopped the movement also at that point of time? The moment when non-cooperation movement has become violent, he knew that the Britishers would suppress the movement. They were waiting for the movement to turn violent. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most intelligent persons, he knew that you cannot get freedom through revolution. Can you defeat the entire force of the Britishers, army and police? You cannot. That is where Bhagat Singh has failed. It is very difficult to get freedom through what is called this terrorist events. And that is where even Subhash Chandra Bose also has failed. That is where Mahatma Gandhi has succeeded. Because can you make sure that the Britishers would leave the country through this violence? Very difficult. You can see all those things in movies. In Triple R, you can see both the heroes are killing everyone. But that does not happen in reality. Right? That is a part of only fiction. They can sing songs and they can do everything. That is not the case. Gandhi fought towards the end. Till the end he was there. He was not willing to accept defeat. In fact, that is the reason why Britishers did not know what to do with Mahatma Gandhi. They did not know what to do with this person called Mahatma Gandhi. Because he says that, if you want to beat me, I will not protest. Then how does it look like to the rest of the world? And Britishers, they always say that they are the custodians of democracy, rule of law and everything else. When they are beating everyone, the world will come to know. On the other hand, if you try to revolt, they could easily hang Bhagat Singh. Why? They had this excuse that Bhagat Singh was indulging in terrorism, violence. And could they do anything to Mahatma Gandhi? No, they could not do anything. That is why every Governor General was full of hatred towards Mahatma Gandhi. Even the British Prime Minister at that point of time, Churchill, they were so against Mahatma Gandhi because they did not know what to do with this person. First he will say that this is my demand. Then he will go on hunger strike, fast track. Right? And then on top of it, he will also adopt this Maun Vrat. He will not talk to anyone also. This is pure blackmail. And Britishers did not know how to deal with this. In your childhood also, if your parents are not taking you for a movie, you will say that you will not eat food. And they will have to emotional blackmail. That is what Mahatma Gandhi has done a large scale. They do not know what to do. And they have failed also. Yes, obviously, you are showing power without showing it. That's what Mahatma Gandhi, that is the greatness about. He knew that India would not be able to get freedom through violence. It is very difficult. He has realized, very difficult to get freedom through violence. Through violence, can you unite the entire country? These kind of terror movements will be there in different parts of the country, sporadic events. And the Britishers can easily crush those terror movements. Saying that the people are indulging in violence, that is the reason why we have the moral obligation to ensure peace in the society. On the other hand, when the people are protesting peacefully, what is the justification for you to kill people? That is where Mahatma Gandhi is a very intelligent politician, one of the most intelligent politicians. He realized in the beginning itself that it would be impossible for India to get freedom through this violent. On the other hand, people like Bhagat Singh, when you are young, you are always revolutionary. Even you people also, you always think about revolution. Tomorrow, entire country should come under the rule of a dictator. There should be revolution. Nothing of that sort will happen. Revolutions anywhere else in the world have not succeeded at all. You must have studied in world history Russian Revolution, Bolshevik. What happened after that? Through revolution, one dictatorship was replaced with another dictatorship. That is what happens. So that's the reason why Gandhi is always a very, very intelligent politician, very pragmatic. Unlike, what did Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to do? He wanted to take the help of Germany, a dictator, to defeat the Britishers. He are taking the help of one dictator to defeat another dictator. After fatal, had Subhash Chandra Bose succeeded, then what would have happened? India would have gone into the hands of Germans. From Britishers to Germans, right? Equality before law. Every country will be given opportunity to rule India. So that is the reason why Gandhi is definitely a very intelligent person. So that is what it is, and let us move forward. Right now, let us proceed and look at the schedules of our constitution. Schedules of our constitution. In fact, you should be studying a lot about Mahatma Gandhi for this examination, because your entire ethics paper, you are writing about only Gandhi. Gandhi's autobiography is there. My experiments with truth. Please make sure that you are studying that book. Have you heard about this? Yes, right. After 3-4 years, you will also write your own biography. My experiments with UPSC. Let them, that's what, when you talk about democracy, there is always scope for differences. You don't have to agree with me. What do we say? You have the right to disagree with me, and I will defend your right to disagree with me till my last breath also. With UPSC, it is part of dictatorship. So, if you want to clear this examination, you have to write answers in a particular manner. If you say that Mahatma Gandhi is a villain and God say is great, then you will get appointment letters from Batsar district, Chhattisgarh, Naxalites. Immediately they will send you INS, Indian Naxal Service. Immediately your answer sheet will be sent there, and they will send you appointment letter also. Please come and join us by tomorrow evening. You are being appointed as area commander. And by tomorrow evening, if you don't come, we will come and take you. So don't have that kind of radical ideologies. With UPSC, you should know what to write. Right? So coming back here, as I said, schedules of the constitution. What are these schedules? Basically, why do we have these schedules? These schedules basically are like various chapters in a book. Various chapters in a book. What each and every chapter is there is what these schedules of the constitution. Because you are reading a book, it has so many 15-20 chapters. What is there in each chapter is given in the heading of the chapter. Similarly, we also have the schedules of the constitution. As I said, we have hundreds of articles. At this point of time, more than 480 articles. How do we divide those articles into these schedules? Write down. Original constitution has 8 schedules. Original constitution has 8 schedules. Later, 4 more schedules were added. Through various constitutional amendments. So let us see all of them. First schedule. It includes names of NAMES, names of states, STATES, and union territories. It also includes their territorial, TERRITORIAL, territorial jurisdiction, JURISDICTION. Territorial jurisdiction means what are the boundaries. What are the boundaries? It covers Articles 1 to 4. Articles 1 to 4. Articles 1 to 4. Then second schedule. It has provisions related to, it has provisions PROVISIONS related to the emoluments, EMOLUMENTS. Emoluments means salaries. Allowances, allowances, privileges, of constitutional authorities. Constitutional authorities like President, Governor, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, of state legislative assemblies, state legislative assemblies, judges of Supreme Court and High Courts, judges of Supreme Court and High Courts, and CAG. CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General. So, in the second schedule of our Constitution, you find all this information. What are their salaries? What are the allowances? What are their privileges? By reading them, you feel good. At least someone is getting good salary. By reading them, right? What is the salary of our president? 5 lakh rupees per month. And where does he stay? He stays in a building which has 350 rooms. One single person, 350 rooms. American president. America is the richest country in the world. American president is the most powerful person. And American president is the real executive. He stays in a house which has only 100 rooms. Right? India, one of the poorest countries in the world. And he stays in a house which has 350 rooms. Right? So that is what this second schedule is all about. It defines the salaries, allowances, privileges of all these constitutional authorities. Right? Third schedule. It defines forms of oath. Forms of oaths or affirmations. Forms of oath or affirmations of union ministers, then members of parliament, then judges of Supreme Court and High Courts, and CAG, then state MLAs, and so on. MLA, members of Legislative Assembly, MLA, members of Legislative Assembly. Yes, India is the 5th largest economy in the world. So that is the reason why our president is staying in a house which has 350 rooms. You don't look at like that. India is the 5th largest economy in the world. What is our per capita income? Pardon? What is our per capita income? That is what you have to look at. You look at a country's progress and development, not in terms of its GDP, but in terms of standard of life, per capita income. How many people in our country have access to better health and education? What percentage of people are in our country, right? Then fourth schedule, allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha. Allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha to the states and union territories. To the states and union territories. To the states and union territories. Allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha to the states and union territories. How many seats are there? As we study later, we do not have what is called a symmetrical federalism. We have asymmetrical federalism. That is the reason why UP has a maximum number of seats in Rajya Sabha, 32 or 33. Whereas these smaller states of Northeast, they have only 1 seat. Right? These articles you can take down 4 and 80. Articles 4 and 80. Right. Article 4 and Article 80 talks about allocation of seats. 80. Pardon? Any problem? 80. Right? I think I have written right only here. Right, okay. I'm sure you can recognize 8 and 0. Right? Thank you very much. This kind of intelligence, brings tears to my eyes, Right? Don't worry, you are talking about yourself? Okay, fine, don't worry. Don't fight among yourself. This is not parliament. Right? Right. Next, 5th schedule. Provisions relating to the administration and control. Provisions relating to the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. Of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. Article is 244. Article 244. 244. Article 244. Right? So that is what, if you look at it, all these schedules, we are going in a very chronological manner. The first one we spoke about is what are the names of the states, what are the names of union territories, and what is their geographical boundaries. Second one, we talked about all the constitutional authorities, their salaries, their emoluments, their privileges. Third one is different types of oath. For example, oath taking ceremony of the president. Who conducts this oath taking ceremony of the president? Chief Justice of Supreme Court. Chief Justice of Supreme Court. And similarly, the ministers, right? Similarly, the MPs, MLAs. For example, if you happen to see those things on television, you can see that. For example, take the case of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. This ceremony will be held in Ashoka Hall in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And then on the one side, you have the president who will be conducting the oath taking ceremony of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. President will say I. Then immediately the Prime Minister will say I. Then the President will say your name, the person name. I, Narendra Damodar Bhai Modi. Like that, do swear in the name of God. That, I, completely owe my allegiance to the Constitution of the country. So on and so forth. How this oath taking should be conducted is part of the Schedule 3 of the Constitution. Then Schedule 4, how many seats should be there in Rajya Sabha for the states as well as union territories? Only those union territories which have state legislative assemblies will have representation in Rajya Sabha. That we will discuss later. And then fifth schedule, it is related to the provisions related to, yes, it has a provisions related to protection of the people in scheduled areas and for scheduled tribes also, because India has so much of diversity, and these scheduled areas, those areas where more you find the scheduled tribes live, they needed some kind of protection. As we study later under Article 19 also, this right to freedom of movement throughout the country, it is there, but it is restricted to those scheduled areas. You cannot go into those tribal areas, you cannot go into forest areas. There are some restrictions. How to protect those sections of society, how to protect those vulnerable sections of society is what we will be studying as part of the fifth schedule also. Right now I am only giving you what is there in these schedules. We will be studying all of them as we proceed with the syllabus. Yes. That will be decided in the Constitution, right? Most of those scheduled areas, and almost all of them are part of the fifth schedule. See, it depends on what the government of that particular day wants. That the government of that particular day can always decide what it is, right? Because you're talking about it because it is there in the news recently, right? Indian presence is not there. It does not mean that it does not belong to India. Yes, that is why it is part of this, right? Next, sixth schedule. Sixth schedule. It has provisions related to the provisions relating to the administration of provisions relating to the administration of tribal areas. Tribal areas in the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Tripura and Mizoram. As I said, with so much of diversity, you need to protect this diversity. That is the reason why in our constitution we have made separate provisions for all those areas wherein the tribals reside. We will not interfere in their day-to-day activities. They are given operational freedom, and people from outside cannot go and settle there. These are the provisions that we have included in the constitution to protect those sections of society. That is the reason why sixth schedule has provisions related to these four states: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram, right? Do you want any break? Right? Or shall we complete all the schedules and go to the break? No, Jammu and Kashmir is different. In this fifth schedule covers only these 4 states. It covers only these 4 states. Yes, sorry, 6th schedule. 6th schedule covers only these states. Jammu and Kashmir has separate provisions that we will be discussing later, which has been removed also. Article 370 and Article 35A. Yes, that we will discuss. I think let us complete it. Then we can take the break. Right? Yes? Yeah, thank you very much. Right. 7th schedule. 7th schedule. It has provisions relating to division of powers between the union and states. In the form of list 1, list 2 and list 3. List 1 is union list. List 2 is a state list. And list 3 is a concurrent list. Right? We'll talk about all those articles later when we talk about union-state relations. Right? Next, 8th schedule. What is this 8th schedule about? Languages recognized by the Constitution. Languages recognized by the Constitution. Originally, 8th schedule had 14 languages. Originally, 8th schedule had 14 languages. At present, 22 languages. Originally, it had 14 languages. At present, 22 languages. So, what are those languages? Do you know all of them? No, that is the reason why, right. Assam, right. Assamese, what are the languages? Assamese, Bengali. We are going according to alphabetical order. First one is Assamese, second one is Bengali, third one is Bodo. Where it is spoken, Bodo? Yes, Bodo agitation, Assam. Next, fourth one is Dogri, D-O-G-R-I, also known as Dongri, D-O-N-G-R-I. Where is it spoken? Yes. Gujarati. Yes, very good, Gujarat. Then Hindi, North India. Then Kannada, yes, Karnataka. Kashmiri. Then Konkani. Where Konkani is spoken? Yes, yes, Konkani is spoken in Konkan region. Very good. Right. Then Maithili. Where it is spoken? Very good. Right. Malayalam. Where? Yes, Manipuri. Then Marathi, Maharashtra. Nepali. Yes, Nepali. Then Odia, Punjabi. Next language, you tell me where it is spoken. Sanskrit. Sanskrit, where it is spoken, which part of the country? Nowhere. Next, Santali. 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 Where is it? Yes. Yes. Then is Sindhi. Where it is spoken, Sindhi? Yes. Then Tamil. Tamil. Yes. Telugu. Yes. Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Right? And Urdu. Yeah. Where it is spoken, Urdu? Sindhi. Sindhi, where it is spoken? Sindhi, where it is spoken? Okay, fine. Very good. Thank you very much. For how many of you Sindhi is their mother tongue? Yeah. Okay, very good. Now write down. Next, Sindhi was added. These are all prelims questions. Why Nepali is considered an official language of India when Nepal is not part of India? Yes, why Nepali is considered official language of India? You know, why Nepali is part of the this eighth schedule when Nepal is not part of India. This Nepali is spoken in eastern part of Uttar Pradesh and some other parts of Bihar also. So that is the reason why. Pardon? Historical relations also. Nepal has been part of India for a long period of time. Nepal is still considered. Informally, we take it as part of India only. So we are officially Nepal is a separate country, but it has too many what you call similarities with India, cultural relationship with India, right? Yes. Yes, yes, they can. You know, that is not there till now. We will, right? Next, Sindhi was added. Write down these things. These things will be asked in films. Sindhi was added by 21st Amendment. By 21st Amendment in 1967. Konkani, Manipuri and Nepali. Konkani, Manipuri and Nepali were added by 71st Amendment. By 71st Amendment in 1992. Then Bodo, Dongri, Maithili and Santali was added by 92nd Amendment. '92nd Amendment in 2003. Oriya was renamed as Oriya, O-R-I-Y-A, was renamed as Odia. Odia, O-D-I-A, O-D-I-A, in 2011. It was renamed as Odia in 2011 by 96th Amendment. 96th Amendment. right? These are all prelims questions. They have asked these questions in your prelims also. You have to remember all of them, especially those that were added through constitutional amendments. For example, most of these languages, take the case of this Maithili, Santhali, and Bodo. Some of these languages, they are similar to Hindi, if I am not wrong. Right? They are similar to Hindi. Maybe the dialect might be different. Next, they use this Devanagari, I think. Or do they have any separate script also? Right? Okay, fine, no problem. Next, ninth schedule. Ninth schedule. How many languages India has otherwise? Do you know? At this point of time, we have more than 1400 languages. 1400 languages. We have more than, they are spoken languages. Some of them might not have any script, but there are 1400 spoken languages in India at this point of time. English itself, we have so many of them. In Tamil Nadu, it is called Tinglish. Tamil plus English. In Bengali, it is called Benglish. Bengal plus English. In North, English. Like this. If you include all of them, it will be 10,000 languages. Right? Do you know the reason why Britishers had left the country? Do you know? No. Why? Because they could not tolerate this nonsense of Indians. Indians damaging their language, destroying their language. They could not tolerate. They have tolerated for more than 250 years. After that, they said that enough is enough. Right? So that is the reason why they had left the country also. Once Winston Churchill was speaking in a public meeting, Indian was also present. Immediately, Indian had come up and warned, gave a warning to Winston Churchill that you are speaking wrong English. Syntax is wrong, grammar is wrong. This is how the sentence should be, according to vocabulary and language. And then Winston Churchill has said that English is what an Englishman speaks. You are trying to control me. I define what is English. That is what he said. So that is the reason why in India, each and every part of the country, we have defined the English the way we like. In Tamil Nadu, it is called Tinglish. In Bengal, Benglish. In North India, English. Right? For example, when Lalu Prasad Yadav used to speak in English, right? It was a pure Maithili or Bhojpuri. But he thinks that it is English. Right? We had Pranab Mukherjee as a External Affairs Minister, very intelligent person, very good person. But he used to speak English with a very heavy, thick Bengali accent. As an External Affairs Minister, you have to constantly talk to foreign ministers of other countries, England, UK, and all these countries, then America. And they used to think that they know the English language very well. When Pranab Mukherjee used to speak, they could never understand even a single sentence. Most of them tried to commit suicide also. Got into depression. Right? So in India, that's what, in India, the way the language is spoken, it is so different. Because every language, people from different languages, they try to include their own vocabulary in English language. And they also try to speak English with very thick their own accent. Right? So why English is not included in the 8th schedule? That's also a good question. Why English is not included? Why? Because it is not our language. 8th schedule has included only the languages that are part of India. Yes, English is still a foreign language. That is the reason why now Government of India is trying to convert entire English into Hindi and local languages. Yes. Very few, microscopic minority in India. English is spoken by very few sections of society, right? They can understand, read and write maybe 2-3%, not more than that, right? Next, ninth schedule. Right? It was added by the first amendment to the Constitution. It was added by first amendment to the Constitution. It was added by first amendment to the Constitution to protect laws, LAWS, laws from judicial scrutiny. To protect the laws from judicial scrutiny. Yes, our judiciary will not be able to review those laws for their constitutional validity. Judiciary is barred, is prohibited from looking at whether those laws are constitutional or not. That is what we will discuss as we proceed. This ninth schedule has become so controversial over a period of time, right? That is when our Supreme Court had later came out with the basic structure doctrine, and the Supreme Court also had come out with a very important judgment in 2007 regarding ninth schedule. We will talk about all of them. Exactly, all those things, everywhere we'll talk about ninth schedule. Next, 10th schedule. It was added by 52nd amendment to the Constitution. It was added by 52nd amendment to the Constitution. '52nd amendment to the Constitution. It is related to disqualification of members. Disqualification of members of parliament and state legislatures. Of parliament and state legislatures on the ground of defection. On the ground of defection. DEFECTION. On the ground of defection. So what does it mean? You are elected on a BJP ticket and you are defecting to Congress party. You can be disqualified. We will discuss all of them. Then 11th schedule. 11th schedule. 73rd amendment. It was added by 73rd amendment in 1992. 73rd. In 1992. It is related to rural local self-governments. Rural local self-governments. Then 12th schedule. 12th schedule. '74th amendment. 74th amendment. And it is related to urban local self-governments. Urban local self-governments. Urban local self-governments. Right? These are all the 12 schedules. Right? If you want, you can take break. Right? You can take break, and after that we will go into Constitution. We'll start with the preamble. Yeah. Urban local self-governments. Yeah. Same 1992. 1992, same. 1992. You can come back after 10 minutes. So, let us try to recall what we have done in the last 3 days or so. First we started with the syllabus, and then after that, we started looking at all the concepts. We started with, why do we need a constitution at all in the first place? Then we have seen what is a constitution, and we have seen all those important features of our constitution. We also looked at the entire process of formulating our constitution, and then we also have seen what is a constitutionalism, what are the different dimensions of constitutionalism. Then we also have seen what is the criticism against our constitution, right? Then we have seen these schedules of our constitution. So let us proceed further, and let us get into this constitution. As we have mentioned in the beginning itself, that our constitutional forefathers had come out with a constitution which is very lengthy. It has so many hundreds of articles, so many schedules, so many parts. On top of it, we also have made so many amendments to our constitution. We look into the procedure for amending the constitution also as we proceed with the syllabus. What do you mean by amendment to the constitution? Making changes to the original constitution. That is the reason why, if you remember, this is what we have said. Our constitution is both rigid as well as flexible. There are some parts of our constitution which require a special majority, which is difficult to get, and there are some other parts of our constitution which can be amended with only simple majority also. That's why we say that our constitution is both rigid and flexible. And if you look at it, since independence, we have amended our constitution more than 100 times also, which clearly shows that it is highly flexible, right? And what is the reason why we have amended? We have made changes to our constitution so frequently. Why? Because as I said, again, as we have mentioned, a constitution reflects the demands, the wishes, the needs, the desires, and the dreams of a people. They keep on changing. What India was 75 years back is not what it is now. Right now, people are aware about their rights. They demand more from the governments. They demand more from their rulers, from political parties, from the entire democratic system. That is the reason why we have amended our constitution so many times also, to reflect the changing needs of the people. And at the end of the day, when we have to sum up our entire discussion of the constitution, what can we say? We can say that what Ambedkar has mentioned about our constitution, we can repeat the same thing. Ambedkar has said that we have given to the people of our country one of the best constitutions in the world. That is what he has said. It is undoubtedly one of the best constitutions in the world. There is absolutely no doubt about it. No other constitution in the world has given so many rights and freedoms to the people. No other constitution in the world has made sure that there can be what is called rule-based governance. No other constitution in the world has tried to make sure that there are so many checks and balances within the system. But at the end of the day, Ambedkar has said that you can have the best of the constitutions, but the functioning of the constitution is in the hands of, he said, one, political parties, and second, people. He had given a warning. He could foresee what is going to come in the future also. That is why we call those people visionaries. Who is a visionary? Who has joined Vision IAS? Right? So, now who is a visionary? A visionary is a person who could, visualize future, who could see what is going to happen in the future, who had that kind of ability, skills, and knowledge to see what is going to happen in the future. Ambedkar was a truly a visionary. He could foresee what is going to happen in the future. And that is the reason why he also made a very emphatic statement, very important. He said that tomorrow, if the constitution of our country fails, if the constitution fails, that is what he said. If it fails, don't blame constitutional forefathers. The blame should be squarely on the shoulders of political parties and the people. Why? Because it is the political parties who come to power at the center as well as in the states. Political parties who come to power at the center as well as in the states, they have the responsibility to implement the ideals of the constitution. They are the ones who are elected by the people. These political party leaders are elected by the people. So if the political parties do not implement the ideals of the constitution, should we blame constitutional forefathers? No. They had given the best of the constitutions. The real functioning of the constitution can be seen only when it is implemented by political parties. And that is what Ambedkar has said. And ultimately it is the people. Why? Because we, the people of India, are electing our leaders, political parties. In India, how do people vote in elections? In India, people vote in elections in the name of religion, in the name of caste, in the name of region, in the name of language, in the name of subsidies, in the name of reservations, in the name of ethnicity, race. But they never vote in the name of performance of political parties. Nowadays, every political party has realized that they can easily win elections by offering free subsidies to the people. Right? So, if tomorrow the constitution of the country fails, who should be blamed? People only, because we are the ones who are electing those political parties to positions of power. Every political party in India is only indulging in what is called competitive populism. One political party says that we will give you this much freebies. For example, in Punjab elections, Aam Aadmi Party has promised 1,000 rupees to every woman. And in Karnataka elections, Congress party is promising 2,000 rupees. Tomorrow, Endar party, Endar elections, they will promise 10,000 rupees. Right? Endar party says that take the entire country. Right? So that is where the problem is. And that is where the problem is. And that is where our constitution fails. Right? As we study, as I said, Mahatma Gandhi, very important thinker for us, political philosopher, moral philosopher. Mahatma Gandhi has come out with 7 important sayings. One of them is wealth without work. People should not expect any wealth without working for it. These freebies are nothing but wealth without work. When you are giving so much of money free to the people, so many free subsidies, why do they have to work? And why will they work also? So that is the reason why at the end of the day, what we say is that it is the political parties and the people who are ultimately responsible for realizing the ideals of our constitution. You can have the best of the constitutions, but as we said, constitutionalism is about implementing the ideals of the constitution. That is where India is failing, or that is where our political leaders are failing us. Right? Again, ultimately, we are the ones who should be blamed because we are voting in the name of all these emotional factors. Yes. See, these are all the things which you find in the newspapers, which are very interesting to read. Beyond that, nothing else. See, if opposition parties do not say that India will be going into dictatorship, who will say that? That is their job to criticize the government. They can be arrested, no problem. Why are you worried about all the things, right? Think about clearing the flames first. No. See, as I said, these things are not important for us. Please remember, when you talk about this UPSC examination, there is so many things that come in the newspapers. You don't have to worry about all of them. Your job is only to clear this examination. I told you these things in the first class itself also. Never, move from your goal. Never divert your attention from anything else. When you read the newspapers, there are so many articles which say that India is getting into the hands of a dictator, and then there is no freedom for people in the country. Everything is fine. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself whether this kind of knowledge is necessary for your examination or not. Simple, it is not necessary. You don't have to worry about it. All your questions, we will answer as we proceed with our classes. For example, when opposition party says that India is going to the hands of dictatorship, it cannot be the case because judiciary in India is still very independent and impartial. Our Supreme Court is coming out with so many judgments. So you don't have to worry. Don't worry. That's all the criticism. Don't worry. That's what I'm saying. You are getting unnecessarily emotional about all these things. Not at all required. Let us restrict ourselves only to, the basic thing is that constitution, polity. Automatically we have to discuss about political parties, their functioning. We will talk about them. Beyond that, nothing else. Because if the country goes into the hands of a dictatorship, or if the country remains democracy, it does not matter to us. For us, what really matters is whether you are there in IAS or not. If you are in IAS, it does not really matter because you are the dictator. Right? So, rest of all the things does not really matter. Your only objective is to see whether you are getting into civil services or not. Rest of all other things we will discuss in the class as and when it comes. Judiciary, you talk about Supreme Court judges and judgments. We'll talk about them as part of judiciary later. Similarly, what opposition says, the country getting into dictatorship, that also we'll talk about as part of the separation of powers, the functioning of legislature, parliament, all those things we'll discuss. Right? So, let us not unnecessarily worry about it. India has a very vibrant democracy, 75 years. And it cannot be just finished off by a single person. So we don't have to worry. Our systems are very strong. We have independent media. Take the case of social media. Social media, the government can control, say, electronic media, but can they control social media? You are sitting in America and putting some statement on the Facebook. What can government of India do? If you block it, more people will see it. That is what is happening. BBC documentary was blocked. When BBC had come out with the documentary, nobody watched it. When it was blocked, everyone watched it. So, nowadays, these kind of things, this kind of dictatorship will not work. That's what I am saying. Right? So, that is where, we can move on to the constitution. Our constitution starts with what is called a preamble. Right? It starts with preamble. So let us first discuss about this preamble, then I will dictate also. So what are we saying here? Our constitutional forefathers, after writing all the schedules, all the articles, all the parts and everything, they felt that something is missing. Something is missing. Is it possible for ordinary people to go through all those original 8 schedules and more than 395 articles? No. Is it possible for us to remember what is there? Is it possible for us to understand what is there? So how do ordinary people know about the Constitution? What is there in the Constitution? That is the question that had come up in their minds. What really defines our Constitution? What are the important features, characteristics of our Constitution? How do we know the essence of our Constitution? That is when our constitutional forefathers felt that they must come out with a simple one-page statement about the entire essence of our Constitution. And we call this as a preamble. This preamble is nothing but what we call introduction. Whenever you read any book, whenever you are reading, how many of you have the habit of reading books? Whenever you read books, in a first page, it will be one page about the essence of entire book. What the book is going to have. Even if you read Lakshmikant also, this foreword is also there. Introduction will be there. What you can expect from that book. The entire summary will be given. In the same manner, our constitutional forefathers, towards the end of our constitution, decided that they should come out with this preamble, introduction to the constitution. What the entire constitution contains is defined in this preamble. They said that this preamble will provide the much needed information to all those citizens of our country who cannot read the constitution, who cannot understand its complicated language, who cannot go through the articles also. As we said, Indian constitution is one of the lengthiest constitutions in the world, one of the longest constitutions. That is the reason why they said that let us define our entire constitution in one simple one single page in the form of preamble. So that is the reason why they had come out with this preamble. And the preamble basically talks about, as I said, the entire essence of our constitution. So what it says that what the people of the country are expecting from their constitution, from their governance systems. What can they expect? That is what preamble defines. That is what it provides information about. It says that we, the people of India, solemnly resolve to constitute India into a sovereign, secular, then a socialist, democratic republic. So these are all the four important words, adjectives that it talks about. First one is sovereign, then secular, socialist, democratic republic. What we must remember is that in the original constitution, this secularism and socialism were not there. They were included through 42nd amendment to the constitution. Let us try to understand all of them in a very simple manner. First of all, what is a republic? What is the meaning of the word republic? Republic means wherein the head of a state is elected. Yes. Head of the state is elected. Yes. By people. If not republic, what is it? What does it mean? Right? What does it mean? For example, you take the case of United Kingdom. United Kingdom has a democracy, but it is not a republic. What we say about United Kingdom? United Kingdom, we say that it is a constitutional monarchy. We call it as a constitutional monarchy. What is monarchy? Mono means single. In a rule by a single person monarchy. For example, in United Kingdom, the entire administration is carried out in the name of the king or the queen. They call it as HM. HM means His or Her Majesty. His or Her Majesty. In this monarchy, the king or queen's position is hereditary in nature. Hereditary means long time back, United Kingdom has developed a convention. What is the convention they have developed? They have developed a convention that the first son or daughter, son or daughter would become either the king or the queen. The son, the first son or daughter of the king would become the king or the queen. They have developed this convention a long time back. That is the reason why in United Kingdom this monarchy has survived for such a long period of time. On the other hand, why in India princely states could not survive for such longer period of time? All the sons would be fighting among themselves. Take the case of Aurangzeb. He was fighting with all his brothers. He has killed all his brothers. He has imprisoned his own father, and then he had become the emperor. And that is the reason why Britishers could easily occupy the entire country also. Why? Because there was no unity. There was no traditions. On the other hand, Britishers, what they have done is that they knew that there will be problems. They knew that there will be problems regarding succession. Who should be the next king? That is the reason why they have come out with the convention that the king's, his first either son or daughter, they would automatically become the king or queen. Rest of them, for the rest of their life, they have to be like that only. If this king or son or daughter, if they die, again their son or daughter would become. For example, the queen, she died very recently, and for a long period of time, for almost more than 70 years, he was only called Prince Charles. He could not become king because the queen was alive. And there was every possibility that Prince Charles would have died long before his mother, out of depression. Because, you cannot become king till the queen was there. And she had become queen long time back in 1950s. She died only recently. Otherwise, by this time, Charles would have died also. So that is what it is. They have developed a convention. So United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy. It is not a republic. Why? Because the head of state is not elected by the people. It is hereditary in nature. It is hereditary in nature. So when our constitutional forefathers sat to formulate the constitution, fortunately we did not have that kind of arrangement, wherein we had one family and whose son and daughters would become the presidents. Britain had given us an option. They said that if you want, you can be part of this Commonwealth. There are some countries like Australia, which have recognized the sovereignty of the British Queen. Right? So they had given this offer to India also. You can recognize the sovereignty of the British Queen and you can stay under this Commonwealth. India has said that thank you very much. We have seen Britishers for such a long period of time. 250 years is more than enough for us. Now get lost. That is the reason why our constitutional forefathers have said that our head of state will be elected by people. Head of the state is elected by people. And that is what is called republic. He represents the public, our head of state. And please remember here, head of state is different from head of government. Head of government. Our head of state is President of India. President of India. That means entire administration is carried out in the name of the president. Does it mean that the president takes all the decisions? No. He is only, right now, she is only a nominal executive. The president appoints prime minister and council of ministers. President imposes emergency. President appoints governors. President also imposes Article 356. President is also the supreme commander of armed forces. Right? Does it mean that the president will go, will take the Sukhoi aircrafts, go into Pakistan and bomb the terrorist camps and come back? No. They don't do all the things. President is only a nominal executive. Tomorrow when you get into services, you will also getting appointment letters signed by President of India. Does it mean that the President is conducting the examination, taking your interviews and evaluating your answer sheets? No. So that is what we say. Head of state is only a nominal executive who does not have any real powers. Of course, later we discuss about some real powers of our president also. That is the reason why we call it as a republic, when the head of the state is elected. But the head of the government is a prime minister, who heads council of ministers. Prime minister is the real executive. All the powers are in the hands of prime minister. So that is what the meaning of the word republic. We are coming from the end. Republic. Republic means the head of the state is elected. And that is the difference between Indian and UK. The question that was asked as part of a comparison of constitutions. What is the major difference between India and UK? UK has constitutional monarchy, whereas India has republic, wherein the head of the state is elected, even though it is an indirect election. In India, the president's office is not hereditary in nature. For example, Draupadi Murmu cannot appoint her family members as president. The next president again will have to be elected by electoral college. So that is what the meaning of the word republic. And then, there are so many other adjectives in front of the word republic. That is what our constitutional forefathers have added. In the original constitution, it was sovereign. Then later they have added socialist, secular, democratic, republic. This socialism and secularism were added by Indira Gandhi with the 42nd amendment. Otherwise, original constitution has only sovereign, democratic, republic. Right? We have seen the meaning of the word republic. Now let us look at the meaning of the word sovereignty. What is the meaning of the word sovereignty? Sovereign. And do we have sovereignty in India at this point of time? So, what is the meaning of the word sovereignty? Sovereignty means there is no one above you. There is no one above you. You have complete freedom to take decisions. You have complete freedom to take decisions. So, when do you become sovereign? You people. When will you become sovereign? When you become financially independent. At this point of time, are you sovereign? No. You are dependent on your parents. Tomorrow they say that now, tomorrow onwards, get out of the house. You will become outstanding children. Outstanding means standing outside the house. Right? So, you become sovereign only when you are completely independent. Now, is India a sovereign country now? Yes? That is the question that we have to ask. Our constitutional forefathers have said that India is a sovereign country. When we talk about this sovereignty, we have to talk about this sovereignty from the country perspective and also from the perspective of people. We have to discuss this sovereignty from these two different perspectives. One from the perspective of the country as a whole, second from the perspective of the people. So from the perspective of the country as a whole, is India sovereign? Right? That means, are we fully independent to take our own decisions? Are we guided by external other countries? Are we influenced by anyone else? That is the question that we have to ask. So what we say is that in this age of globalization, we say that no country is fully sovereign. No country, including America. Why? Because globalization is about interconnected world. Globalization is all about you are being connected to the rest of the world. As part of globalization, you will be signing so many agreements, right, with other countries. You will be signing so many agreements with other countries. For example, we are signing this WTO, World Trade Organization. When you sign this WTO, you have to give most favored nation status to each and every country also. Similarly, you are signing bilateral treaties. You are part of United Nations. You are part of other multilateral institutions. So what happens? These institutions will influence your policies. They will influence your policies. For example, when you are part of WTO, as I said, you have to give MFN, most favored nation status, to every other country. And your customs and excise duties are decided on the basis of the agreement that you are signing. Does it mean that you will have complete sovereignty to take all the decisions? Obviously not. Yeah? What do you mean by MFN, most favored nation, means in WTO let us assume that 180 countries are there. Each other country, every other country you are giving most favored nation. That means you are giving every country which is part of WTO the status that you are my favorite country. Every other country. That means you will not be imposing extra tariffs. You will not be imposing extra custom duties, excise duties on their products when you are importing from them or when you are exporting to those countries. So, we have to give MFN status to even Pakistan also. Yes. Obviously, that we have to give. It does not mean that you will be giving. Pakistan has not given in India MFN status. That is where I am coming to the sovereignty picture here. What we are saying here is that when you are signing all these international agreements, you are signing as a sovereign country. You are signing as a sovereign country. And if you do not want, you can come out of all these agreements. There is no pressure on you to become part of all these trading unions, to become part of all these multilateral institutions. You are taking the decisions in an independent manner. Why did we sign MFN? Why did we become part of WTO? If you become part of WTO, you will improve your trade. You will improve your exports. You will also get imports in a more cheaper manner. That is the reason why when you became part of United Nations, you will get a lot of other benefits also. When you become part of IMF and World Bank, you will get loans. That is the reason why people become part of these multilateral institutions. That is the reason why these countries become part of it. And at the same time, you can always get out of these institutions as and when you want. That is where we talk about sovereignty. When we are joining all these institutions, on our own without any external pressure. That is where the sovereignty comes into picture. Why did we join all these institutions? Why do you want to join more institutions? For example, Australian Prime Minister is there right now in India. The government is signing so many bilateral trade agreements with Australia. Why? Does it mean we are compromising with our sovereignty? No. We are signing all those agreements because to improve our trade with Australia. Similarly, our Prime Minister will be going to foreign countries. When he goes to foreign countries, he will be signing so many agreements with those countries. Why? To benefit ourselves. We are signing all those agreements as a sovereign nation. After independence, Britishers had said that you can become part of Commonwealth. We said that no problem, we will become part of Commonwealth, but we will not recognize the sovereignty of the British Queen. We will become part of Commonwealth. Right now, India is also part of Commonwealth. Why? Because we will get so many benefits. Between these Commonwealth countries, they can reduce their tariffs, they can improve trade, they can also have a people-to-people interaction. We are living in the age of globalization. You can improve your trade, you can improve your investment only when you become part of more bilateral and multilateral trade agreements. And that is the reason why India is also trying to sign as many agreements as possible. And when we are signing all these agreements, you are signing these agreements as a sovereign power. And if you are not happy, you will get out of those agreements also. There is no compulsion. There is no compulsion. Joining the treaties and coming out of the treaties is completely your sovereign decision. That is where we talk about sovereignty. There are some countries which are not willing to join the United Nations. It is up to them. But does United Nations have any kind of real power? Could United Nations stop the war between Russia and Ukraine? Both Russia and Ukraine are part of UN only. What they could do? That is the reason why most of these multilateral institutions have been a failure, because they cannot impose their decisions on sovereign countries. United Nations could only request, they would plead, they would bargain, they would beg with Russia, please stop the war. Russia did not stop the war. What did United Nations do? Impose sanctions. Did India follow the sanctions imposed by United Nations, or for that matter by America and other countries. United Nations has said that people in a country should not import this petrol and this crude oil from Russia. India has asked United Nations, who are you? Who are you? India is importing a huge amount of crude oil. America and Australia, they could not do anything. What can they do? They could not do. Can they impose sanctions on India? No. Why? Why they cannot impose sanctions on India? India is the 5th largest economy in the world. If they impose sanctions on India, who will suffer? They will suffer. That is the reason why. That is what Kautilya says. One of the India's foremost political philosophers. He says that first become very strong and powerful, then dictate terms to others. That is what he would say all the time. Might is right. What do you mean by that? Might is right means those who are powerful. What? Those who are very powerful, what they say is always right. Take the case of America. What America says becomes international law because might is right. Right now it is the case of China. Everyone knows that China is responsible for this spread of COVID virus, coronavirus. What could we do? We could not do anything. Germany has said that let United Nations impose a huge amount of fine on China for spreading this coronavirus. China has said get lost. Because those countries are dependent more on China than China depending on those countries. The moment you become bigger, stronger, mightier, you will dictate to the entire world. That is the reason why when India is importing crude oil from Russia, they could not do anything. On the other hand, right now look at Pakistan, what is happening there. Pakistan is being imposed so many conditions by IMF and World Bank. Pakistan could not do anything because they have collapsed. That is what happened with Sri Lanka also. Right? The more powerful you become, the more sovereign also you will be. Sovereignty is always linked to your economic and military strength. Economic and military strength. For example, in 1962, China attacked India, Indo-China war. Can China do the same thing now? No, why? Because we have nuclear weapons. Right? They cannot do that. Now, no, because we are 5th largest economy in the world. Can India attack China now? No. Why? Because their GDP is 5 times more than our GDP. Might is always right. So, the sovereignty of the nations, that is what we say, sovereignty of the nations always depend on their economic, military and other strengths. The more economically powerful you are, the more sovereign you can be. America can dictate terms to countries around the world. American foreign policy is always influenced by their multinational companies. Right? In India also, in recent times, India is using its economic strength to dictate terms to other countries. India is providing so much of a foreign aid to most of the countries. Indian multinational companies are also going and doing business in other countries. That is what we say, sovereignty. So, with globalization, the sovereignty is definitely impacted, but still, India is a sovereign country. Why? Because we have signed all those agreements. We have signed all those agreements in a voluntary manner. Nobody is putting a sword to your neck and say that sign the agreement, otherwise, you will be killed. We have signed all those agreements only because it would benefit us. This is about the sovereignty of the nations. Then what about sovereignty of the people? In India, how do we define the sovereignty of the Syrians? How do we define sovereignty of the Syrians? Sovereignty of the Syrians is defined in terms of our representative democracy. In terms of our representative democracy. Elections are held after every 5 years. Elections are held after every 5 years. And how did this sovereignty is exercised? When we stand in front of EVMs. EVM means electronic voting machines. We have all the choices there. And we have that independence to decide our representatives. You can vote for BJP. If you're not satisfied with BJP, you can vote for Congress. If you're not satisfied with Congress, you can vote for Samajwadi Party. If you're not satisfied with anyone, you can vote for BSP. Right? Right, yes. You can vote for Aam Aadmi Party or Tum. Right, whatever it may be. Right? So that is what is sovereignty of citizens. We have complete freedom to take decisions about our electoral choices. Unfortunately, we say that sovereignty in India is restricted only to those few seconds when we stand in front of EVMs. After that, for the next 5 years, there is no sovereignty of citizens, because in representative democracies, it is the people elected representatives who rule the country on behalf of the people. Our entire syllabus is about how to transform this representative democracy into participatory democracy, so that we have a true sovereignty of citizens. Democracy is not about voting in elections. Democracy is about what happens after elections are over. For the next 5 years, once the elections are over, do the representatives consult people about policies? Have you seen, how many of you have seen your MPs in your locality or your MLAs coming to you and asking you, tell us what kind of policies you want? Have you ever seen your MLAs and MPs? Yes, will the government take your suggestions? Right. So that is what we say, how to transform our representative democracy into participatory democracy. That is the essence of our entire, again, syllabus, so that we can see this true sovereignty of our citizens. At this point of time in India, sovereignty of citizens is restricted only to voting in elections. For those few seconds when they stand in front of EVMs, they have a true sovereignty. Nobody can influence their electoral choices. But after the voting in elections, how to make sure that people still would remain sovereign? That is where we talk about 73rd, 74th amendments. For example, as part of 73rd amendment, we talk about Gram Sabhas, which is an example of direct democracy. That is where you can see the true sovereignty of the citizens, because the people of Gram Sabha would be taking decisions and they will also be implementing those decisions. That is what we say. I think the time is up, right? Yes, we can continue with our discussions tomorrow, right? Yeah. And any kind of doubts, you can always ask, right? Newspaper, yes. I've got the newspaper. I think tomorrow we have class, right? Sunday also we have class. Sunday, then I have other class. Okay, right, no problem. Right. So, today's Hindu newspaper, yes, Indian Express is also relevant as Hindu. Yes, you have to read, as I told you in the first class, you have to read minimum 2 newspapers, Hindu and Indian Express. If you have time, read Times of India. If you have more time, read Dawn, published from Karachi. Right, you can prepare for a PPSC, Pakistan. Yes. Have you seen the question papers of PPSC, Pakistan Public Service? Just go to the net and find out. Whenever you are depressed, do those kind of things. You find so much of happiness in life also. Right? Right, let us look at today's newspaper. Center to reconsider the safe harbor clause in IT law. These are all the prelims questions, please remember. And you can leave rest of the articles. You can leave rest of the articles. Then page 2, not much is there. 3 also you can leave it. Page 4 also you can leave it. 5 also you can leave. Page 6, long lost moth species caught on camera in TN forest. Do you know what are these moths? What is so special about this species? No, I'm talking about this moth. What is so special about it? Please remember, these are the things they are asking in your prelims. They are attracted to fire very easily. Right? These are all the things you should know from your prelims point of view. Page 6, next. Antibiotic drugs administered on livestock cut carbon in soil and affect climate. These are all part of your environment and ecology. Very important. Page 7, you can leave it. Page 8, why onion and potato cultivators? I don't think it is important now. You can leave it. Because I think all of you will be writing examination next year only. 24 or 25? 24. 25 also some of them. Some of them will be writing 25 but 5,000. Not 2,000. Right. On page 10, media rights and breaking the silence on press freedom. You can go through this. We'll discuss these things as a part of right to freedom of speech and expression. Next. The ideal track to run India's logistics system. This is also important. Stopping the boats. Western democracies are belittling the contribution of immigrants. These are all very important from your ethics point of view. Case studies. Free of opposition not required. Not required. Nagaland is not required. Then opinion not required. Cheetahs not required. On page 10, LUG political solution in Sri Lanka not required. Of course, if you have any thoughts of preparing for a Sri Lankan Public Service Commission also, SPSC, you can read it. Right. Then India at the Academy Awards not required. On page 14, India top tier security partner, Australian Prime Minister Albanese, important. Abusing someone with caste name during argument won't lead to SC/ST Act case. We'll talk about these things also in our class. Right. MOU on semiconductors will help India play a bigger role in electronic supply chain, US, important. Then on page 15, mostly political news, you can read it. We'll talk about those things, political news also. The statements made by our Vice President as well as Rahul Gandhi. Right. Railways gears up to fulfill coal demand of our sector. Page 16 important. On world page, Russia-Ukraine war, it will go on till 2025 also, so no, you don't have to worry now. Nepal elects a new president. You can go through that. But by the time you write the examination, Nepal will have 10 more presidents like this. Right? Page 18. Inflation to ease in financial year 24, but monsoon is a key risk. CA. That's important. And last article, page 18. India must prepare to curb volatility risks of international rupee. Sports pages, you can leave it. So that is it. And tomorrow, we will, normally, initially it will take you around 1.5 hours to 2 hours for newspaper reading. Sometimes it takes 2.5 hours also. Let it take. Over a period of time, maybe after 10-15 years, it will come down to it will come down to half an hour. Right.